Hello, welcome to News 24. My name is Tsidi Madia. We're bringing you election coverage. We're bringing you election coverage and trying to get you to meet the political leaders and to know what their parties are about. Joining me at the moment is Vuyolwethu Zungula from ATM, one of the newcomers on the scene, which is causing a bit of a stir. Vuyo, hi, welcome to News 24.
Thank you so much, Tsidi.
Tell me about ATM. Like, where does it come from? How did it start?
Initially, the party was formed by a council of Messianic churches. These are the African independent churches that were previously marginalized and sidelined in the governance of the country. So they felt they needed a voice in the governance of our country. However, when we started now to engage other sectors of society, we got one main message that South Africa does not need another Christian party. It needs a party that will embrace all 58 million South Africans and a party that will serve all 58 million South Africans. So the party was formally registered with the IEC on the 20th of June last year, and we've been working since then, and we are ready now to win the elections.
You're making waves as if you might actually take a solid notch away, a solid base at least, with you come elections. But let's speak about representing all South Africans, 58 million South Africans. Not all 58 million South Africans are subscribed to your religious position. They are atheists, they are agnostic people, some are Muslim. There are many South Africans with many belief systems. So how do you see yourselves appealing to those people? Because to win, you must appeal to all of us, so we vote for you.
Yes. Look, we do not dispute the fact that it was initially Christian churches, particularly independent churches, that came with the idea. But this idea was not, for example, for the churches, it is for everyone. Hence, you find that when we speak, we are not saying we're going to impose, for example, the Christian or biblical principles in the country. We speak of a value system. And this value system, when you speak about peace, ubuntu, servant leadership, and accountability, those are the values that we're saying should be part of our living as South Africans. And take, for example, a Muslim. Those values are not anti-Muslim. Take, for example, Rastafarians. So these values that we speak about are values that must identify with all South Africans.
South Africa is a country that has a lot of violence. And is targeted particularly towards the LGBTQI community. The queer community has been under siege, particularly women who subscribe as lesbians and the like. What is the position of ATM towards something like this? I mean, you've got a party like the EFF that has gone out of its way to kind of focus really on this. You've got the ANC that has raised concern around violence against women. What is your position first on the homosexual community, which is, by the way, protected by the constitution of this country?
Look, what we say as an ATM, we have in the country have had marches, we've had summits, we've done so many meetings around the issue of violence. Now, what we're saying now, what we need is a strong legislation, because we can't live in a country whereby there's corrective rape. There's children being what you call missing, just like what happened in Tsakane. So what we're saying is that we need to introduce a justice-based capital punishment system so that all of those serial murderers and serial rapists, they actually get to pay for their wrongdoing with their lives, because we can't have South Africans feeling in fear, living in fear. And it starts with the attitude that we need to have as South Africans towards crime, because currently the attitude is as if we are we are boyfriends of these murderers. We do not view these murderers as people who are disturbing our peace and disturbing our state, in the sense that we are able to live peacefully and freely in our country. That is why, as the ATM was saying, we should not be playing with these guys which are criminals. A criminal must fear to be a criminal in South Africa, rather than a law-abiding, peaceful citizen living in fear.
That kind of took me aback. I remember reading your manifesto, and when I saw the issue of capital punishment, I was taken aback. In fact, I spoke to Zuma and Manyi, I think you're head of policy the other day, where you asked to take me out so you can explain what ATM is about. And I said, I stopped reading when I got to capital punishment. I felt it was so severe, a country that has shed so much blood, and that says never again as far as the gallows are concerned. And now you're giving an explanation as to why you bring it back. When you speak to people about it, what is their reaction to the idea of capital punishment?
The people, in fact, how we function as the ATM, we do not want to impose our ideas to the people. Rather, we listen to the people, then we develop legal means and political means to express for their expression. Let's speak about capital punishment in the country. Look at how the increase of the mob justice. Mob justice, it is people actually saying, part of the criminal or part of the punishment that is given to the criminals, part of it should be their lives. I think in the past year, close to 500, if not more than 500 people died because of mob justice. That is number one. That means people are saying there must be capital punishment. Secondly, go on social media. For example, when there's a case whereby one Tsotsi has a shootout with the police and the Tsotsi dies, most of the comments are saying good riddance, one less person to worry about. Look at the case of Toriso in Limpopo. People are saying bring back the capital punishment. So what we are saying as the ATM is what the people have been saying all along. What we are just saying is that it needs to be justice driven rather than being the case like it was during the times of apartheid.
So you are saying the mob justice that we see are South Africans actually calling
because
for capital punishment?
Yes, because people, when people communicate with government, sometimes they'll write petitions, sometimes they will go on television, all of those things. At times, people speak with their actions. Now, when people are violent, in the sense they are violent when dealing with crime, that is another form of people expressing to the government as to what should be done. Now, we should have a government that listens to what the people are saying and find legal means to express what the people want.
Another interesting value or position that I saw in your manifesto was around traditional leaders. We're in a country where there is almost a war really between ordinary South Africans who live in the villages under the leadership of traditional leaders, where they're called, if you remember, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, tin-pot dictators over how they treat people. Yet ATM is advocating for traditional leaders.
In our country, we can't run away from the fact that we're an African country.
Of course.
And we need to appreciate our Africanness. And you find that when it comes to the issue of traditional leaders, you'll have some traditional leaders maybe that will go astray. You'll have some other traditional leaders that are doing what needs to be done. So us as the ATM, we're not going to discount all traditional leaders just because of the actions of one or two traditional leaders. What we want, we want a state whereby there could be a peer review system even amongst themselves as traditional leaders, so that if one of them goes astray, they can always guide one another, because we can't live in a society whereby we discard and we discount people.
But they don't do that, Vuyo. We don't see them doing that.
Where?
We don't see traditional leaders, when one goes astray, that they pull them back.
Look, that's why
we don't see that.
That's why we're saying us as a country, if you check now the relationship between the traditional leaders as well as the politicians, politicians have made traditional leaders to be somewhat, they are puppets, because if you look now, when these guys are going campaigning, they'll buy the traditional leaders. So it is not about their value in which they should be bringing in the country, as well as a conducive role they should be playing in the development of the country. Hence you see all of this thing happening, because even now government cannot properly provide oversight to the traditional leaders, because even themselves have got a role to play in the current state of the traditional leaders. That is why, as the ATM was saying, let us work with the traditional leaders, establish a proper role for them so that they know exactly what they need to do and what they should not be doing.
Isn't that very similar to how they all started? Do you not see that you'll end up in the exact same place as what you're describing now, where political leaders are treating traditional leaders like they're puppets? Do you not see that you'll end up in the same place?
No, because, for example, we work with all South Africans. However, we want them to be independent, so that we as the party, should we also go astray, they can be able to tell us, ATM, we are going astray. Similarly, us as the ATM, when we see any sector of society that is going astray or is not doing what they should be doing, will be in a position to advocate and speak the truth to them. So that is why we do not want to infuse everything into one. We want what we call independence between all of these sectors of society, so that one can speak freely, so that our country can have proper leadership. Like
the three arms of the state.
Yes.
Vuyo, I want to speak a little bit about some of the names associated with ATM. They constantly describe you as a pro-Zuma party. What is your position on that?
All right, let me give you a background. As the ATM, when we started now engaging with the churches, I think it took close to 3 or 4 years. Because remember, some of the churches in terms of their doctrine, they are not pro-politics.
Yes.
So we have to make them understand that when they take part in their politics, they take part in the governance of their country. Now, it is common cause that all of the presidents in the country have visited these churches all along.
Yes,
it does not start with Utata Uzuma. Even Tatu Mandela, Tatu Mbeki, Tatu Motlanthe, all of them, they visited these churches. Now, when we started this political party, our first public meeting was on the 6th of April 2018. On the next day, Sunday Times ran a story saying we are a Zuma Party. They never gave us a right to reply, and all publications, they quoted Sunday Times, and Sunday Times was basically spreading lies, because even if you were to look, for example, at all of our gatherings, from the first one up until now, not even one mention of Viva, President Zuma Viva, not even one saying that hands off Tatu Zuma. Go to our documents, our manifestos, not even, there's nothing in terms of his rhetoric and his politics that you may find in our manifestos. So we do not have any association with the former president. We're a party that is formed for the people of South Africa, not to defend or advance his interest.
So when you hear people saying that you've been formed to split the vote and make it difficult for the ANC to do better than under Jacob Zuma, do you find it funny?
Yeah, very
damaging.
I find it very funny because, you know, if people actually took time maybe to speak to us to understand why were you formed, what do you have to offer to the country? Because a lot of people, in fact, maybe it's because of the many political parties that when they start, they are against the ANC. Us as the ATM, we are not against anyone, including the ANC. We are for the people of South Africa.
Then the other name that was interesting was Zuma and Manyi. I mean, part of the confusion, I think, is people think he is the face of ATM,
yes.
yet it's actually you. Zuma and Manyi leaving the ANC, making a big announcement about it, and eventually joining ATM. Why embrace someone like him so openly? You know, he's also seen as a... Some people say it's unfair and it's wrong, but he is seen as a checkered character. He's seen as a character linked to the Guptas. South Africans don't like the idea of the Guptas. They don't like the Guptas at all. Why openly embrace him and make him head of policy?
Look, as the ATM, we have one principle that is saying all South Africans can be part of our transformation agenda. We will not have a state whereby we decline people the opportunity to take part in the governance of their own country. Now, if we're to address, for example, the media issue, because ATM is registered in June, starts launching from every weekend from the last week of September. You can imagine 8 different locations up until the 1st of December when we launched our manifesto. Now, there was zero media coverage. So when he joined the party in January, and I want to state that he's not the only person that we have called a press conference when he's joined. We've done it in the Eastern Cape, we've done it in Limpopo with EFF members, we've done it generally that when someone joins and they feel that they need to make their decision to be public, we have a press conference so that everyone knows that he's joined the party. Now, if you were to check perhaps what the media has done, initially they said we're a Zuma Party. Come January when Manyi joins, they say we're a Manyi Party. Now, that clearly...
I've never had anyone calling you a Manyi Party.
Okay, just type, they say Manyi's ATM.
Yes, they think he's in charge of the ATM, it's his party.
Yes,
but I've recognized.
But if they were to do some research, basic research, when was the party established? Who are the leaders of the party? Even in that press conference, it was clearly stated that he's joining a party and he's going to be responsible for policy. So people can't now say it is Manyi's ATM as if it's his party. So what we need in the country, we need journalists that will actually stand for reporting the truth and not want, for example, to be sensational in order to drive up sales.
So if ATM is voted in on the 8th of May and by the end of that week you guys are in charge, you're in charge and end of May, you're inaugurated, what would your relationship with the media be like? What's your vision?
The media must have an independent body that will regulate it. I'm saying this from understanding personally what happened with me. If we were to check, there's stories in the report and many other news publications where they say, I'm a Zuma loyalist, I'm a staunch Zuma supporter. And you will not find even one T-shirt or one photo of me wearing an ANC T-shirt You can't even find a membership form of me because I was never even a member of the ANC, DA, or any political party. Daily Maverick said I'm a former DA leader. So the issue there is that my career might be ruined because of what is said in the media. So if you cannot have a media that is also accountable, because accountability must not only be for politicians or public officials, also the media must be accountable for what they write because they influence the perceptions of the public. Right now we're sitting with a mess as the ATM because at first we're called the Zuma Party, now we're called the Manyi Party. Now it places us at a difficult position because people don't know us for what we truly are. They know us based on the propaganda or the message that has been spread by the media. So if we can't have a media that is able to account for what they write, then we won't have a media that is protecting democracy, because democracy depends on media actually reporting what is true and not just reporting for the sake of selling stories.
Okay, I'm winding down. By-election, it was this year, early this year, I think, 30% in Yandeni. You caught a lot of people's attention. I know our resident analyst, Davi, was taken by surprise and said, you know what, maybe there's something to watch about ATM. And I think you're 5% at one of the other ones. I don't know if it's in Berkeley or in Joburg, in Gauteng. That's how you caught people's attention, that actually there might be something. But others also dismiss it as, but the leader's from Yandeni, so it doesn't really matter. Just help me understand that 30%, how you achieve that, what work went into it, what's the groundwork. You spoke earlier about how you've been launching branches every other week at some point since I think it's September.
September, yes.
Yes, let's talk about how you got to 30%. That is quite a feat.
Yes. I think the polls, they must just continue doing their polls and exclude ATM. Come the 8th of May, they will be surprised. When we discussed as to what is our offering as the ATM, we said there's two things. There's the governance issues or the policy issues. Then there's the human element. The human element, because in the country, people have grown tired of politicians. When you see a politician, you think lies, you think deceit, you think all of these things. Now, a lot of people do not relate to many politicians because of the experience of the past 25 years. So as the ATM, we are coming with a new character of politicians. That is why you never see me howling, you never see me shouting, because us as the ATM, it is all about what we say and the ideas that will improve the lives of South Africans. It is not about howling or shouting or doing all of those things. Now, the message of our values, because we're saying our values, they give rise to the people so that they can be able to trust us. Now, that is why people in Yandeni were able to trust us, because we speak a language that they understand. And another thing that is important about the ATM is that it is not formed or run by politicians. I myself, I was never a member of any political party. I'm an ordinary citizen that understands the cries as well as the struggles of South Africans. So I relate to a lot of people because I'm there. I've witnessed the promises and the lies by the politicians. So when we speak as the ATM, we speak to the hearts of the people so they can trust us. That is why we managed to do so well in Yandeni as well as the other places.
What happens now? I mean, we are headed to the 8th of May. We're headed to elections. What do you think this translates to? Also, when you answer this, please bear in mind that there are predictions that you have maybe 2 million people you're expecting to vote in your favor. Just try and talk me through also just that.
Okay, let's start with the organizations that support us. Many religious organizations said, look, we've been outside of politics, not taking a stand. In these elections, we're taking a stand and we're voting ATM. So I'm counting close to 500 churches that have openly declared their support for
Sorry, is this a number that's grown since you've come out saying we are contesting the elections, or rather since the IEC has said you've made it onto the ballot?
Yes. Remember, we registered in June last year. So from there, we've been engaging many South Africans.
Okay.
There's what you call about 20 political parties. Some of them, they could not register for national elections. Some of them, they only contest for local elections. That have said, we're not contesting, but in these elections, we are going to vote for the ATM and we're going to campaign for the ATM. There's civic society organizations like Insika Yesizwe that has also come out to say we're going to vote for the ATM. So that is why we as the ATM, I'm not counting now the majority of South Africans who are not in any organized grouping that will be voting for the ATM.
Is the Mazibuya Congress part of under the ATM now?
No.
It's not?
No.
And as I close this interview, your parting shot to voters, I mean, the 8th of May is around the corner. You seem confident that you'll emerge. Just your parting message to our users, I suppose.
Yes, people, I think they've been praying, a lot of them, for a solution. And I think what God has done, He has combined these religious organizations for the betterment of South Africa. If we were to observe, for example, the churches in the country, they are so divided. But with the ATM, they've managed to unite. Not only Christian churches, we've got Muslims, we've got Amagqirha, which is the traditional healers. We've got even a transgender community that is also part of the ATM. So this ATM that we're talking about, it is an ATM that is a people's movement. The coming together of various organizations for the sake of South Africa. So when people are voting for the ATM, they are voting for an organization that is a creation of their wishes as a people. And what they must expect to get under the ATM government is servant leadership. Because if we do not have leaders who understand that they are there to serve, we'll have what we have in the country whereby they think they are the bosses of the country. Rather, we need people who are there and knowing that they are there to serve the people of South Africa.
Actually, I said that was my parting shot, but I made a mistake. There's these rumors, these claims that actually the party is not legitimate. There's a grouping, a splinter, if anything, that says actually they'd like the IEC to deregister ATM. Just to quickly address that situation and what's actually happening.
Look, there's one individual who was previously a secretary of the Council of Churches that was supporting us. He resigned in July last year to focus on his studies. Now he comes back, organized a few of his friends to say there was a conference. Now in this so-called conference of theirs, they say they're going to ask the IEC to deregister the ATM, and they say they've spoken or they are in talks with the ANC. Now, the fact that now this grouping will speak to the ANC, for us, it makes us to think who exactly is behind all of this that is happening. Now, I want all of the viewers to understand that the person that was responsible for the registration of ATM, it is myself. Initially, we tried to register ATC, African Transformation Congress, but because there was a lot of parties that have the combination of African and Congress, for example, APC, AIC, ANC, what the IC said is that we can't use that combination. So we registered now the ATM. And IEC gives anyone 30 days after a registration for a party has been lodged. If a person is unhappy, they can object within 30 days. So we registered as a party, 30 days passed, nothing happened. Only 18 days before the elections, they are now suddenly trying to get the ATM out of the ballot paper, which clearly shows that whoever that is funding this guy has got serious money, number one, and number two, they are so threatened by what the ATM has got to offer, because the ATM is a party that is going to serve the people of South Africa. We are not arrogant, we are not self-serving, and we are speaking the language of ordinary South African citizens. That is why all of these people are trying so hard to try and deregister ATM. I spoke to the IEC. They said they'll issue out a statement, if not later on today, tomorrow. Otherwise, we've done everything by the book. Otherwise, if we had registered the ATM incorrectly or fraudulently, would not even be in the ballot paper. We are already in the ballot paper. So the viewers, when they get to the ballot paper, they must look for the second party, the ATM, and just make their beautiful X there.
I was actually going to ask you what the IEC said, but you've given us a response. Do you think it's the ANC that's threatened? You say you're linking these people to the ANC. You say whoever it is threatened. Do you think it's the ANC, and do you think it's a worry over the Eastern Cape specifically?
Look, the statement, I'm trying now to remember the exact words. He says, we have engaged the ANC, or we're in talks with the ANC, and will continue to engage the ANC. Now, there's only one political party that is mentioned there. It is the ANC. And remember, if any person has got any issue with any organization, the first point of call, it is the leadership of that organization. None of our structures from a branch level to a national level was engaged by this gentleman. So hence we think ANC is involved because there's only one political party that was mentioned there. And at the same time, their main worry should not be the Eastern Cape, because ATM is strong all over the country. A few weeks ago, we were welcoming EFF councillors from 5 different locations in Limpopo. So we are doing very well in all 9 provinces.
I want to almost go back to this issue of the ANC. You're saying they shouldn't be worried only in the Eastern Cape, but across the board. But do you actually see yourself actually denting the ANC on some level in the Eastern Cape? The ANC in the Eastern Cape has been comfortable for a very long time. Do you think that 30% win Nyandeni might have scared them?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It will have scared them. And look, ATM, these organizations, they are the most marginalized organizations. When you speak about the organizations, that is the base of our support. They've been loyal to the ANC for a very long time, without getting any return or any protection. But with the ATM, because it is their creation, they are going to support the ATM with all that they have. And again, ATM is a self-funded party. From the time of registration up until now, we've never had any funder. We've been relying on the support from these organizations. Now, for these organizations to support us from inception up until now, it clearly shows that we're talking about engaged people. We're talking about dedicated people who are giving their all to make sure that the ATM really does well.
All right, thank you. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
That's Vuyolwethu Zungula, the president of the African Transformation Movement, saying you can trust them. Put your X next to ATM when you see the ballot paper on the 8th of May. For News 24, I'm Tsidi Madia.